this inconspicuous railway hub has a permanent place in the history of the gold of the Russian Empire. Today, the station is called Irkutsk II, but in January 1920 it bore the name Inokintievskaya. It was here that the officers of the Czechoslovak Legion arrested their Russian ally, Admiral Kolchak, on this unremarkable platform. He and his colleagues were locked up in this small house and were then handed over to the revolutionaries. In this way, they were given safe passage to the port of Vladivostok so they could sail home.
The Czechoslovaks surrendered Kolchak to centrist revolutionaries in Irkutsk. They wanted to have him put on trial. But with the arrival of the Bolsheviks, they deposed the centrists, arrested Kolchak, and executed him.
Having played their part in the execution of Admiral Kolchak, the Czechoslovak legionnaires resumed their journey in the direction of the port of Vladivostok. Now the question is, where did the gold go, and why are they looking for it in Lake Baikal? Historian Alexander Tivinenko and writer Ivan Pulayev have lived in the Baikal area their whole lives. They are sure that quite a sizable part of Kolchak's gold ended up in the lake after one of the trains crashed here. That eastbound train was moving along the Kruger-Baikal railway. What sort of train was it, and where was it carrying that gold to? According to Alexander Tivinenko's theory, the answers lie in a contract made between the Czechoslovak legionnaires and the Bolsheviks, the Kutin Agreement.
According to the Kutin Agreement, half of Russia's gold reserve that the legionnaires seized from Kolchak was to be handed over to the Bolsheviks, while the legionnaires kept the other half. As a result, Russia acquired 13 carriages and the Czechoslovaks took 17.
The Czech historian disagrees with the theory of his Russian counterpart.
A truce agreement was signed at Kutin station. As a result of that truce, the Russian gold reserve was handed over to the Bolshevik government led by Lenin. This means that the treasure was in the state that it had been while in Kolchak's custody, with the exception of the 13 crates that had disappeared at Tirot station.
Alexander Tivinenko and Ivan Pulayev have covered the distance several times before, 120 kilometers. It's a 5-hour journey by service locomotive. They are looking for evidence that the golden train controlled by the Czechoslovaks did indeed crash.
After the agreement had been signed, the Czechoslovaks headed on eastwards, with the gold quite unimpeded. However, it turned out Lenin had sent a telegram ahead to local followers in Irkutsk at the last moment. And in it, his message was blunt: blow up the tunnels and bridges and tear up the tracks. Not a single gram of the gold was to be allowed to go any further east.
The Kruger-Baikal Railway is one of the world's most dangerous routes. On one side, there are sheer cliffs. Lake Baikal is on the other. There are frequent rock slides here. This enormous piece of rock sticking out of the lake might have been what caused the crash. The driver of that steam locomotive told Ivan Pulayev about it when Ivan was still a young man. According to the driver, the rock fragment crashed into the train just when the locomotive had entered the tunnel.
Some of the train cars remained on the tracks. Others fell in the direction of Baikal. One of the carriages was on the bank after being ripped apart. Crates were taken out of it.
In the summer of 2009, Alexei Tivinenko and other scientists started their descent to the bed of Lake Baikal on board a mere deep-sea submersible from here. At a depth of 1,400 meters, they found wrecked carriages and a host of objects resembling crates. This picture shows them in great detail. Chances are those crates were filled with gold.
Unconfirmed reports indicate that several trains carried the gold. The location of the carriages and the metal crates that were so heavy they couldn't be moved coincides with the crash site.
People in submersibles have only been able to examine the lake bed. Dragging up heavy objects would require an altogether different vessel.
If the search for Kolchak's gold is put on a strictly scientific basis, success may be achieved.
Tyumen. The eastbound train carrying the gold reserve bypassed this Siberian city. However, it is in this building that a trace of the so-called Siberian share of Kolchak's gold was found in 1991. The building used to house the local branch of the Soviet KGB. Today it belongs to Russia's Federal Security Service. Back then, Alexander Petrushin of the KGB was looking through secret archives dating from the Civil War when he came across a document pertaining to the 1920s. It contained a description of the medals stamped before Kolchak came to power. The new medals bore the inscription, "Liberation of Siberia."
Kolchak knew the medals had already been stamped. More than that, they were made of precious metals. He ordered them to be added to his gold reserve. That is to say, Russia's gold reserve. He said it should be kept in church basements in Tobolsk. Other additions included church ornaments and possibly valuables belonging to the family of former Russian Emperor.
There are 2,000 kilometers between Moscow and Tobolsk. Tobolsk is a historical Russian city. It was founded in the 16th century, and it used to be the capital of Siberia. Where then was the Siberian portion of Kolchak's gold kept, and where did it end up? There are many monasteries and churches around Tobolsk. According to Alexander Petrushin's theory, the Siberian portion of Kolchak's gold was hidden in one of them. The Abalak monastery is several kilometers from Tobolsk. During the Civil War, Archbishop Irenak of Tobolsk had one of his residencies here.
Some of the church valuables and valuables belonging to the Siberian White Movement were kept here in the Abalak monastery. It is now being restored. Have you found a lot of metal?
Yes, we have lots of.
I find this quite intriguing. There is a lot of metal here, because insurgents taking part in the 1921 peasant revolt were executed here by this wall. One finds gold, gems, and human bones here, all in one place.
Colonel Alexander Petrushin of the Federal Security Service, now retired, has spent a good deal of time in search of Kolchak's gold. His job gave him access to secret archives and transcripts of interrogations relating to Archbishop Irenak of Tobolsk. According to his testimony, when the Red Army was approaching Tobolsk in August 1919, Kolchak had ordered that the Siberian gold be evacuated immediately.
In October 1919, crates with a valuable cargo were loaded from this pier onto a steamship called the Permyak. Early winter and the resulting cold weather compelled the convoy to halt near the village of Tundurno, close to Surgut. Escorts unloaded the valuable crates and hid them deep in the woods. It is not known where the cargo was left. Those treasures, including the priceless liberation of Siberia medals, have not yet been found.
From Omsk, the Golden Train went east on the Trans-Siberian Railway through Irkutsk. All of Russia's railways converge at the port of Vladivostok in the country's east. It's situated 9,000 kilometers away from Moscow. The Trans-Siberian Railway terminates in the city. One theory has it that part of Russia's gold reserve reached the city after Kolchak's execution. This picture shows Czechoslovak legionnaires waiting for their turn to embark on ships in the port of Vladivostok. 42 transport ships took some 70,000 officers and men of the Czechoslovak Legion to Europe.
Members of the Czechoslovak Army Corps were carrying no arms as they embarked on ships, only personal belongings. But even they were not allowed to exceed a certain weight limit. This seems to suggest that there was very little room in those ships. Therefore, I cannot honestly believe that the content of scores of other railway cars could have been accommodated there.
But this picture from the archives of the Military Institute in Prague shows legionnaires sitting on large crates as they prepare for embarkation. And another photo shows large packages on the ship's bow. What's in them? The answer is unlikely to be found. Enthusiastic treasure hunters in Vladivostok and all along the route of the gold train believe that part of Kolchak's reserve is hidden somewhere here. Sergei Matvienko, founder of a motor club, began looking for the gold in 2005 after he met Viktor Shumov, a local resident. Shumov promised to take Sergei to a cave where he said he had found gold bullion with the coat of arms of the Russian Empire embossed on it. Sergei and his friends received official papers authorizing them to do excavation work at the site of the find. Sergei then made arrangements for an expedition to go there.
There was a hillside waste at the site. We used a small excavator to dig up stone after stone. In the end, the excavator reached a flat surface made of cut stone. It was easy to see that it had been made by hand.
Wow! It seems we can get in there. We could find gold. Shumov told me that he had seen stacks of gold bullion and paintings in tubes, and even some flags. He assumed those were paintings because the tubes were quite long. But he touched nothing for fear of triggering a blast.
Sergei Matvienko's team found nothing after 2 months of work. Later, other treasure hunters literally collapsed the cave to the ground. Viktor Shumov, the man who found the cave in the first place, died under mysterious circumstances. This raises the suggestion that he may indeed have found something valuable. But whether that was part of the Russian Empire's gold reserve is still unknown.
Looking for Kolchak's gold is something of a hobby for motor club members. Some evidence suggests that it is here in the Primorye territory, in the Olgovsk region, or in the Chiguyev region. We are going to do more excavation work in the near future.
In 1920, the Bolsheviks returned some of the gold reserve that the Whites had taken from the State Bank's Kazan branch.
When all is said and done, it is a significant fact that the gold returned to this building after its Siberian journey. It took several days to bring it here by trams and motor vehicles. In October 1920, the gold reserve was sent to Moscow.
In the early 20th century, trains carrying part of the gold reserve of the Russian Empire went on a journey across the country. Every now and then, the fascination with Kolchak's treasure fades, only to fire up again with renewed vigor. Many living along the route of the gold train, and in many other parts of Russia, claim they know where the gold bullion is hidden. Setbacks notwithstanding, these treasure hunters are determined to go on with the search. The mystery of the gold's disappearance has remained unsolved for nearly 100 years.